Hello, you've got John Kailunas II and our reoccurring guest, Lee Cole from Lionshare Regal. Welcome, Lee.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always great to have you here. We always have a lot of fun. We got a great topic today. I'm excited about this. You and I have talked about this on numerous occasions with numerous advisors and thought I would share it with the audience. We're going to talk about the C4G 5 ways to grow. And a lot of times, very much like our clients, financial professionals neglect their own business. You know, clients are busy accumulating money or working at things, and they don't really take care of the business of their household. We don't take care of our business. We don't work on our business, we work in our business. So, there's that old saying, it says, if you're not growing, you're dying. And a lot of firms get to a point where they plateau, right? They get comfortable, they get plateau, and they don't really know how to grow. These 5 things will help you grow. And we're going to go through them in a little bit of the detail in the next half hour, 45 minutes. This is one of the things that we do at C4G, and you can reach us at www.catalyst, the word number 4, grow.org, and fill out an IQL form. We call it the Increase Your Quality of Life. There's 3 heartburn issues. Fill those out, or just simply text us, or excuse me, not text us, call us or email us, and everything's on that website, and ask us to share you the 5 ways to grow. So we've got a little presentation that we have, a PowerPoint, but we're gonna do it here live on this podcast today. So, any thoughts before we get started, Lee?
No, it's one of my other than my favorite topic, right?
You have no thoughts.
I have thoughts, but I don't think I should share them. No, other than this is
okay. Let me preface this. Do you have thoughts on the 5 ways to grow before we start with number 1?
I do. I think that this is absolutely should be in the top 3 of every advisor's to do. Is figuring out how to grow, because if you're not growing, you're dying. So yeah, a lot of thoughts, but we'll go into further depth later.
All right. So the number 1 thing that we have listed in the 5 ways to grow, number 1, drum roll, is strategy. Talk to me about why strategy is important and why advisors need to have a strategy on the growth of their business.
Yeah, I mean, the parallel is asking a client to get somewhere without a plan. Right? You can't expect clients to get to retirement goals and to reach those goals without that financial plan. Yet so many advisors try to grow their practice without a strategy in place. They don't have that plan. What's the roadmap? How do you get there? What are the goals?
It should have a clear purpose, right?
Yeah.
And it should help define the organizational message. It should be assigned to tracked, right?
Yep,
It should be measured, and it should be handled consistently.
Well, and I would say with honesty, true honesty towards yourself, because you need to be honest with yourself as an advisor. Is the strategy working? Are we growing? And are the metrics showing that?
It comes to mind that we had a young advisor, and he was really excited. He wanted to work with people coming out of college, right? Relieve their college debt and get them investing. And when we work with them on the strategy, we're like, that's great. That's very noble. The problem is when someone's saving $50 or $100 a month and you're trying to build a practice off of that, you look at the economics, the advisor's going to go broke.
Yeah.
So the strategy, the idea was good, but there was no strategy. There was no idea on how it would be impacted this gentleman's practice. And so he's still doing that, which is really noble, but he realizes that's not going to sustain growth. So he came up with a second strategy for another target market, pre-retirees. And again, he's working towards, he's got things working parallel for prospecting. And you should have about a minimum of 4 prospecting streams, but your strategy should incorporate all of that. How your business is going to run, way it's going to run, how you're going to make money, where you want to be in 1, 3, 5 years, and how do you hold yourself accountable? All really important parts of strategy.
The last thing I would add there too is, how do you attract good talent that's going to help you with your growth? Maybe a different type of growth than what you're thinking as you listen to this podcast, but growing your team. If they don't know what your strategy and where you're going with it, how do they buy in? They don't.
They need to know the why, right? The old Simon Sinek, knowing the why. If you've been watched that YouTube, the why by Simon Sinek is classic, and it really gets it gets to the core of what motivates people. So your staff won't be motivated by your goals, but they will be motivated by a mission. And if you can articulate that mission through a strategy, you got a winner chicken dinner.
And you're going to attract good talent.
Yeah,
right?
And you're going to retain them
with winners that have a plan. The top producers, there are similarities, and they want to know what the plan is. So, a strategy is crucial for any practice that wants to really grow.
And it's such a broad topic, strategy. There's a client strategy, there's a service strategy. We call them also processes. But, your strategy should involve your bio and all the things we've talked about in past podcasts, and that we're going to continue to talk about because we think it's real important. The strategy is the overall lying plan on how things are going to be accomplished.
Yep.
And I bet you that I probably, if I walk into 10 practices, maybe one will have a strategy or a plan put together.
Yeah. I would say it's 1 in 10.
And that might even be a little
Generous.
Aggressive.
Yeah, that might be generous. I mean, I think there's it rattling around in people's heads. They've got those vague strategies, but just like anything, like
I want to be $1 billion shop. Well, great. How are you going to get there?
Exactly.
How are you going to do? What's your first step? What's your
tell a client that there's your strategy to get them to retirement's in your head, and wait for the looks you're going to get. It's the same thing as a business owner. If you don't have strategy, you're not really running a business.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, I think we've covered that. I think we beat that with number 1 pretty good, but it's really important. So number 2 out of 5 is financial management. Let's talk a little bit about financial management. And again, the irony that advisors do it for people, but not themselves. Yeah. This is the first 2 are so similar in that old saying that the cobbler's kids don't have shoes.
Yeah.
We don't do this enough for ourselves, and it's because we know we should do it. We just don't take time. And these are events you have to schedule. You have to schedule time to work on strategy. You have to schedule time to look at your books and know your business, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times, working with me, I like doing some off-sites a couple times a year. We've done them up north in up northern Michigan. We've done them in your office. In northern Michigan, we've done them at a resort. We've done them in Texas before you joined us. We've done them in Detroit. So I like getting the group away. You build some camaraderie, but these are usually the things we discuss. So let's get a little deeper into financial management.
Well, I think, strategy leads us right into that financial management topic. If you don't have your strategy down, how are you going to know what your budget is, what you should be spending, what you are spending? Again, this goes back, I think, a bit to not being organized and having that strategy. Usually, hand in hand, there's not a lot of financial management. What are your client acquisition costs? Are you managing? Are you budgeting that, or is that being something that you just accept? That monthly bill, that quarterly bill, that workshop bill. You really need to actually have a budget in place, just like we do with clients, and you need to have the plan. For that financial management. When are you going to deploy it? Something as simple as quarterly. So you don't spend all the money in the first half of the year and now you got nothing for the second half. Again, if you don't have financial management, you're going to run into.
We see it real quick. We see it real quick with advisors that prospect, right? They get some money in the coffers. They start a marketing plan. It doesn't pan out as quick as they want, or as whoever told them it would pan out, right? Because they're buying a silver bullet. It takes a while to develop skills and to let those things develop. But they don't budget properly. It should be anywhere from 5 to 8% of your gross should be used for marketing. They run out of money because they didn't plan, and they run out of it the first quarter or the second quarter. So, we see it time and time again. And then they got to stop the marketing, which is the worst thing you can possibly do, because you get your momentum going a little bit and then you stop. And then they wait till there's some money in the coffers again and start it again.
Yeah.
That's not good financial management. And as a business owner, your financial metrics are goalposts, that inform you on your most critical business decisions and thus your progress towards your goals. Financial ratios like gross margin, revenue per client, cost of leads, cost of client acquisition should all be critical in your business decision. When should you hire somebody? Should you fire someone? Should you invest more in marketing? Should you buy a firm? Should you outsource the lower portion of your book to be managed by someone? Should you get a junior broker? All those decisions, they can come from the heart and they can come instinctively, but I'd much rather have the instinct or the spidey sense tingling and have some financial metrics behind it to make sure that I'm making the right decision for my practice in focus to obtaining my goals.
Yeah, and there's a lot of advisors that get part of it, but not all of it, right? They'll not track the ratios. One of the things that you and I were talking about too is even just hiring staff, right? How do you know what kind of bandwidth you have to get the help, especially as you're growing, right? You can't do it all. So without these ratios and without some kind of financial management, you, you're heading into some tough situations that are going to require some tough decisions too that most advisors don't want to make. And to your point, if you run out of money, let's say on that marketing budget or on whatever, what happens to all those dollars you already spent? They're wasted.
Yeah.
They're wasted because it's all stacked on top of each other. And that's one of the more disheartening things I see with advisors when I know they've got momentum and they give up right before things are ready to pop. And we've said this so many times, they go back to bad habits usually with that too. Rather than reflecting and go, maybe I didn't plan that out right. Maybe I should have thought more. Maybe I should have figured out my financial plan. They go, nope. And then they'll go back to, I'm just going to wait for something to come in the door.
Yeah, as we were building Regal, I realized there were some things that I did exceptionally well and some things that I weren't strong at. And the financial management, the operations, and the efficiency, I'm not that detail oriented. So we had a really good staff, and we gotten to be, in the $10 million range. And we had a change of ownership. We bought Larry out, and subsequently realized that we weren't managing our financial resources like we should have, right? We weren't managing the business. We weren't budgeting properly. I went out and found Bill Best, couldn't afford him. So I put him on a consulting contract for a couple of years until we could afford him. And I think that first year we stepped back about 10%, maybe 20. And then after that, it's just getting, because we had to change everything. We had to change our operations.
Even the way we thought about things.
Oh, definitely the way we thought. We used to think that recruiting bodies was great until we started to realize that some of the recruits we had, we were losing money on because they were poor producers and they weren't listening and they didn't want to grow. So those are all things. Once I had the metrics, it was very easy to make decisions. I didn't have to really think how Jimmy was doing. I saw how Jimmy was doing, and I saw Jimmy was trending, and that Jimmy wasn't going to be a fit for Jimmy was a good guy. Jimmy was probably a good broker, but he wasn't a good broker for us because he didn't hit all the metrics he should have. And I would have gone along with it and just kept Jimmy around because Jimmy wasn't a problem. But if you really want to grow, and then, we started growing at 20% a year, and, now we're going to be around 34 million in revenue, gross revenue. That's a pretty big shop. We're doing well and we're solid because we paid attention to those financial metrics. So that's number 2 of the 5 ways to grow, according to the brilliant people at C4G, of which we're all part of here on this podcast. So what we're going to do on the other side of this break is we're going to talk about number 3, 4, and 5, and we're going to go into a little depth about those. The other things that we think just out of the 5 ways to grow that you need to be focused in on, because if you're not growing, you're dying. And we want to make sure that you're not pushing flowers. We want to make sure that you're pushing dollars. So we'll catch you on the other side of this quick break, and we'll go through those 3 through 5. Thanks for listening. All right, as promised, we're going to finish the top 5, starting with number 3, marketing. What are your thoughts, Lee Cole, Senior Advisor Advocate at Regal and Lionshare, regarding marketing? And what do you see with your 20 years of experience of what advisors do and don't do right built to grow their practice?
Well, that's an interesting one, right? There's 2 sides to this, but I think a lot of advisors get lost with just going after clients, and they don't think about how they're being represented at times. Sometimes the websites are just really bad, or maybe they go off into some videos that studies show, especially like YouTube videos, that's outdated, very low numbers and returns. They don't really focus on what is actually going to get the assets in the door, what's going to get clients in the door, and what's going to help them step out into their community and really step apart from their competition, right? So I think it's really important that they have an idea what makes them unique and what makes them stand apart. And then they talk about it everywhere with everybody. Some of the top teams I work with, their marketing is nothing more than community involvement. They have some brochures, but you know, before they get in at 9, they've already gone to, breakfast with, the local business owners. At 4, they're gone to go do Kiwanis and probably, be a coach on some kid sport team. That's just what they do. And they work solely off referrals. So, there's a more than one way to skin this cat as far as marketing, but it's so critical because it's the lifeblood. It's what allows you to focus and really get your resources in front of people, get more referrals, and really position yourself in the community as a specialist.
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do is, follow the C4G bio process, create
Absolutely.
a professional bio, and have that on one side of a page, and on the other side have your client process. Because without those two things, what do you market? You should be marketing your process and your character and who you are, not products or not services. You should be marketing the ability to help people get to where they want to go. And without those two components, you can't market effectively. And then the third part of this is really important: is know your ideal client.
Yeah.
Right. So you should have, for every target market you should have different bios, right? Because they're looking for different things. The bios need to speak to the prospect, not you speak to the prospect. Right. The prospect needs to read that and hear it. And I do it electronically, and I do it in paper. So if I meet somebody, I send them a bio electronically, right, off my phone. It's a PDF. And if they're going to come to my office, it's sitting down in my conference room before, and I get to control the narrative of who and what I am before they have they have preconceived ideas, but I get to correct those before they get to meet me. So marketing is something that, the younger generation advisor. So we're we're G1 advisors. The G2 advisors think marketing's dirty. They think sales is dirty. They think they should have a client to manage them for a salary and benefits, and get a bonus if they've done well. That's all great. The problem is the average book decreases 3 to 5% a year. Mr. and Mrs. McGillicuddy pass away. The money goes to the kids.
They move out of state.
Mr. and Mrs. McGillicuddy start spending their money. For God's sakes, they took them 40 years to earn it, so now they want to go travel, and it starts spending down, right? So without filling up that funnel with new people, again, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yep.
You need to really do that. And so that G2 advisor, those younger advisors, really need to sort of change the way they think about it. It's not dirty. Yes, there have been in our industry poor sales practices that make me cringe. And I mean, both you and I, we see it, and we want to go punch them in the face. I mean, literally, we see them, and it's just like, it's horrible, because I don't want to be known as some dirt bagger. I'm proud of this profession. I'm proud of it help people. I'm proud of the firm I built, and I don't want anyone to soil that. The problem is you can't just say that's no good and throw the baby out with the bathwater. So these younger reps, these younger advisors are going to need to embrace that, because if they can't produce and fill those coffers, it's a melting ice cube. Every practice is.
Yeah.
It changes every single year.
No, it's you said it best. If you're not growing, you're dying. And as a business, you got to realize that. So
we keep saying that, but it sounds pretty morbid, but it's
true though. It's
really
is true, because it's a hidden danger to your business and to your practice. That,
you know why old adages are old adages? Because they're good.
And they're true usually. They're usually true.
All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We've got number 1 that we talked about, which was strategy. Number 2 was financial management. 3 was marketing. Now let's talk about 4. I know you love this one because you helped me with this in our own firm. Number 4 in growing your practice is people and performance. So let's chat a little bit about that in the time we have today.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you've already said this a couple times, even in this conversation, where we came to and where we are now. I've been here 8 years, and even just here at Regal, seeing the difference of people and performance. You have to have the best people you can if you want to expect the best performance. And let's be real, all of you listening are expecting to give your clients the best, or your advisors if you're in distribution. You want to give them the best performance. That's still the bar that's set, but you need people that can help you. And I think if you've worked in teams professionally, you understand that not everybody's created equal. Some people are more driven and some people are not. And you just alluded to the younger advisors seem to want to just basically be case developers They don't want to go out and go after things, but there's still those diamonds in the rough, and you've got to have opportunity at your firm to be able to track that, right? Um, you know, when you post something, do you get a lot of requests? Are you well known in the community and people respect you or not? One story I'll share is that one of our teams has shared with me that a lot of their staff that they hire are people that just walk in into their office. And I personally have a little issue with that
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it
because
blows my mind.
it's one of those things that I don't know about you, but if I'm good at something, I don't need to go look for someone to pick me up, right? You talked about being a wrestler, and that's an analogy I'll use. If you're a good wrestler, these club teams are going to want to pick you up. They don't just let you walk in off the street and go, "Hey, I'm here. I'm in the lineup." That's not how it works out. Same thing with your team. You want quality people. You want to have a little bit of control, not a little bit. You want to have a lot of control. But let's face it, you also got to offer them something too, right? And top quality talent, well, if they know what's going to motivate and inspire everybody else, they're going to be on that team pushing for you. So making sure you get the right people in. We've dealt with it here at Regal. Some people help push. Some people are just sitting on the bus, and some people are pushing back the other way.
Yeah, I found as I've gotten older, I get really not upset, but just disappointed and lose interest in an employee or a broker's development if they're not engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the term engage. You got to be paying attention, right? And I'm a big believer. Effort means everything, right? If you don't put towards effort, that's the one thing you control. If you're not going to put effort towards something, I don't need to. Why should I care about your job more than you do? So one of the things that is important is make sure that you have metrics on everything you feel is important. But there's also some prep work you need to do before you hire somebody, and you don't hire them walking off the street. But, there's tools like the DISC test, Colby. That's one of the things we're looking at for Catalyst for Growth is to become a certified Colby instructor and administrator, because I think there's a lot of merit can be put in those personality tests. And you got to make sure you're putting, as Jim Collins says in his book, Good to Great, you got to be making sure you're putting the right people on the right seats in the bus, because everyone can have a place in the bus, but a driver's got to have a special skill set instead of the person in the last bus by the fire extinguisher, right? So the different people doing different things, and you got to make sure that you have it. And the other thing that I want to say, and this is very difficult for you entrepreneurs, you're going to work hard, you build your business up to 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, you get some staff, you keep growing, and all of a sudden you're going to realize one day in your moment of solace, both Lee and I hunt and fish. There's been a couple times I've been in my blinds waiting and thinking and realizing that the people that I really like in my organization don't have the skill set to keep up with where we're going. And I'm going to either have to have a kind of conversation, develop their skill set, or find a compassionate bus stop or a compassionate stop, like Colin says in his book, Good to Great, a compassionate bus stop, because they have to go. Because the person that can get you to 5 million in gross revenue isn't the person that can get you to 10, and 10, not 20. They're different skill sets. They're different things that are required. And if you're not measuring that performance and you're not measuring it against your goals, you're missing tremendous opportunities. You're missing, I don't know if I'll ever be the best at anything, but I can be the best me. And that's what I need to strive at. Every single day I need to get, the Japanese have a thing, and I think it's pronounced Kaizen. I don't know if it's pronounced, it's Kiazen. But it's about getting 1% or an increment better at everything you do every single day. And it could be no bigger than a pinhead, but you've got to be moving forward. And we all realize we're going to take those days where we take a big step back, right? And we keep building, and we're being relentless, as we talked about in the earlier podcasts. People and performance are real important. And it's something that advisors need to focus in on, because it is a huge, huge problem when it goes wrong. When it goes good, you don't even notice it. When it goes bad, it turns your life upside down. And nobody wants that. Because again, we want to increase your quality of life. Increasing your quality of life is controlling your time. And when you have bad staff or bad junior brokers or what, I'll tell you what, it crumbles quick. And all of a sudden, all the stuff you've been happy and you're working on other projects, all those delegated responsibilities all of a sudden get thrown on your desk like a big pile of jambalaya, and your life, your immediate schedule changes, and the trajectory of your business slows, if not reverses.
Well, there's two things I'd add there, and just kind of put a little cherry on top. Make sure you pay your people.
Wait, we're putting a cherry on jambalaya?
Right? No, that's dessert. We're doing dessert afterwards. Make sure you pay your people appropriately.
Yeah.
I'm always shocked at advisors that expect assistants and juniors to do their job at the same level for $10 an hour, $15 an hour.
How many times do we have that with advisors? I'm like, well, what do you pay your staff? Well, they come in part-time. It's $15 an hour. Well, you've got basically in today's market, a fast food worker working part-time for you.
What could go wrong?
Nothing.
Right.
Wonder why they're not attentive. They don't show up for work, or they miss something, or they didn't do something right. And they could have the best intentions. They just might not have the capabilities. So you have to pay people.
Yep. You have to pay them. And I think also you have to include them and give up. This is one thing I had a hard time with when I came here, was dictating and letting go. So when you have the good people in place, you pay them and then let go a little bit, because you have to take that time and that energy and focus it on the other things. Otherwise, why have them in place?
I want to say one more thing that's important too, and it's important for your culture to protect and build a culture. And one of the ways you can do it is award people when they do things right. So we do this every week. We have our production goals here internally. It goes against our budget and all this. And our budget packet that I get now from our operations team is over 60 pages. And it's a spreadsheet that has to be, we got to take it to Kinko's because our copier won't blow it up big enough. We blow it into like a poster, and it gets this binder on it. It's a whole deal. But in there, we built in performance things. So if we hit our numbers every week, we buy the entire lunch or the office lunch. Yeah. If they hit it every single week, they get, I hope they do. Yeah. It just means we're being more successful, but it's just a little thing to thank people for doing a job. I'm also a big one on handwritten notes. Yeah. Just, hey, thank you for doing a good job. And always, I heard this on Dr. Phil once. One negative comment, you need 10 attaboys to erase it. Right. So it's better just to give attaboys and whoopings when you need them, but try to give more attaboys. Yeah.
The carrot and the stick. And we're getting, I'll tell you what, I think this sounds maybe silly to you, but just hearing, I think for a lot of employees, just hearing a great job this week as they walk out the door. It's Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon, and you just tell them, hey, great job this week. That goes a long way. And we get so busy with what we're doing that we don't think it. We do it with our own families too at times.
I just had a conversation with one of our advisors who was really leaning in heavy on the staff. And I said, hey, how about buying them lunch? How about sending them flowers? How about taking them out fishing, do something for them? Because, you're really pushing hard on them. Not in a bad way. It wasn't anything negative. It's just he didn't understand something. So he kept asking questions. And, it was 10 different types of touches into our service center for a case because he just didn't understand it. And I'm like, just say thank you. And, he did. He listened to what I said. And this morning he sent those thank yous out. And all of a sudden the two employees that he was putting a lot of pressure on, a lot of weight on, said, wow, it was really cool that so-and-so said thank you this morning. He said he does appreciate what we do. And I'm thinking like a simple thing, man. It probably took the gentleman 2 minutes. And yeah. So, all right. So we've covered, this is the last one, man. We've covered strategy, financial management. We've covered marketing and people and performance. The last one, number 5, the big one, operational efficiency.
In the independent space.
Look at that. You love this one.
There's a giant gap in our business in the independent space of this right here. Advisors aren't using things like ProPlan Assist, where they can have the case all put together.
Yeah, let's explain what ProPlan Assist is.
Yeah, ProPlan Assist is our internal program where we do case development for the advisor. They all have input on what the solutions are, but we basically scrub the data, get all the information needed together, schedule a call, get if there's an IMO or an insurance representative, get that marketer or representative on the call.
Involved, yeah.
We get the team together and the specialist, and we put the case together for you with your input.
And we are using software like Money Guide Pro, Nitrogen, Crescendo, Income Builder, Y charts. Yep. We're using all these things Albridge, not Albridge, excuse me, Tamarack. We're using all of these things to put it together, and we put it in a big bow for the advisor if they're using our strategies.
Yeah, if they're using it, which I always think it's crazy when they don't. I even get, I sometimes want to put things together, but I mean, this is like a free staff member, right? Operational efficiency. You're scrubbing my data for me. That's an hour I can go do other things, right?
Well, just all the data entry and all that stuff, and all of a sudden, I talk to you about a case with all the people that I think are important in the solution, and it doesn't cost me anything. Yeah. And in 72 hours or 96 hours later, I get a plan, and
it's a no-brainer. It really is. And like I said, I think the reason you don't see it is because there's not as much going on as advisors sometimes want to fool themselves into thinking they're doing. Because you need operational efficiency if you're really humming along, right? If you're having 3 to 4 appointments a day, you're making sure you've got time to go out and prospect. You've got to remember, be a business owner too. You got to be a boss, all that. You need the operational efficiency, which leads me to another inefficiency that I see a lot is the lack of integrations. The world we live in with technology integrates everything. You can get your email to your phone, you can get everything, but yet, advisors aren't integrating. Let's say a good example is Nitrogen or Schwab or Fidelity to their Redtail.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to dump those statements.
Yeah. We have a lot of that we need to really focus in on. I mean, we use Tamarack here at Regal, and I was amazed that our advisor, it spits out over 2,000 reports. You can custom made reports. So we've made custom made reports for some of our strategies, like our covered call option strategy. And by the way, you can get all of our disclosures. Right, the compliance disclosures are on the C4G website, which is catalyst4growth.org, and it's also on the regalholdings.com site. So all the disclosures, we want to make sure that we're compliant. But that one strategy I was mentioning is very complex to understand it for a client.
Well, the result,
the report helps really articulate the value and takes away a lot of the math and makes it very graphically representable, and it's customized. Yeah. So yeah, we'll put your logo on it. And we have a lot of advisors that don't have their own logo on their statements. It amazes me. So those are things that we constantly work on, but they're just not operationally efficient. They don't go through. It's amazing to me. So like when we do with the fee pools, right? We send these things 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time so people can look at it. And how advisors don't look at it. And then they'll say, hey, I've never been paid on this case, or why wasn't I paid on that? Well, it's because, number one, you put 0 on the original paperwork that you weren't going to bill them, which is absolutely asinine. Asinine. You've got all this risk and liability for no revenue. That's just foolish. And operationally, you haven't caught it. And no, we're not going to go back and bill the client a year's worth of fees because you didn't do your job.
Oh, don't just forget that you disclose every summer on the annual compliance that you are reviewing this, but we'll forget that.
Yeah. So, you run across that, and it's not done intentionally, obviously. No. It's just we get busy and mistakes happen. So we want to make sure we run the cleanest possible shop we can. And you should too. Operational efficiency, we can always get better at it. And the good shops I've seen, every 2 to 3 weeks, they have a lunch and they talk about how can we make things easier. What investments in time and energy today can we make that will make our shop better going further in the future? And there's a lot of things, simple like integration, like you said, right? Instead of pulling things from 3-4 different ways and cross section and putting it together manually, that it can be done with, now it might take 10 phone calls between those vendors, but
once it's set up,
it's set up, it's gold. So yeah. do you spend 5 hours on the integration to get an hour a week for the next 5 years? Hell yeah, I do that every single time.
And let me just make one more plug here. For example, if you plug in the custodian to Nitrogen, if you have that access, you can have an updated report that feeds those positions from the custodial account right into Nitrogen. So now we don't have to guess where their risk is. We don't have to guess.
Great point.
And so does Money Guide Pro with their STAR report. So now we know a year later, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we put together this plan, we did all that work. Oh, by the way, it's still 95% probability of success. Don't we feel good? And that's with the integrations with the feeds from Schwab or Fidelity or whoever, bringing that. And you You can even use integrations like Yodely that will pull in insurance and annuities. So in today's world, there's really no excuse for not trying to integrate and achieve that operational efficiency. If you could save yourself just 2 hours a week, think about that. That's 8 hours a month, right?
Yeah, I don't have the skill set to become operationally efficiency. So what I did is I found people that could, and they've in turn trained people on staff, and they've had a phenomenal role in their development growth as individuals, but in the growth of the firm, because they love this. They love the intricacy of hooking these things up and getting things flowing and moving right, the data and transferring things, and it's a game changer. It's really changed the way we do business.
Yeah,
But the same for us. I mean, again, we're going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly here regarding what's worked and what hasn't. So we wanted to share these 5 ways to grow. And again, I'll recap them again. We talked a little bit about strategy today. We talked about financial management and running your practice as a business. We talked about marketing and all of the mistakes we've seen in marketing and some of the fundamentals that you need to do in marketing, right? We talked about number 4 was people and performance. And then we talked about, lastly here, operational efficiency. So I think these are a great 5 sort of pillars to think about. And if you're running your own shop and you're all proud you put CEO on your card and you're the only person in your firm, this is a great place to start building out where your vision is, and look at these 5 pillars every single quarter and take some time, right? And find out how you're going to build the shop of your dreams. If you're larger than that, the same thing. I would take a half day, a Friday, right? Or I would take a holiday. We have a lot of governmental holidays now. I would take one of those, right? Or a slow day, right? And just take a look at where you are, your firm, and measure where you are to get better. Again, you're not competing against anybody else but yourself. And if you're not doing these type of things, you're not going to be the best you can possibly be.
And you deserve to be honest with yourself. So,
ooh, there is a pearl. I mean, I'll tell you what, you need to be honest with yourself, because a lot of people, we lie to ourselves, and we're embarrassed. So we justify why we don't do things.
Don't lie to yourself. You're only making it worse.
Well, thank you, Lee. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. Love talking with you, and it's always fun. The conversation comes easy, fast, and furious. And not only do I appreciate you attending, but I appreciate everybody listening here. So you can get more information on us, again, at our website, www.catalyst, the word, spell that out, 4, the number 4, growth.org. So check us out. There's a lot of good stuff on that website. If you want to work with us in any capacity, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you for about 20, 30 minutes, see if there's a fit, see if there's alignment, and see if we can make each other better. Have a great week, and come check us out next week. We got some new hot stuff hitting in the next week's podcast.